Tonight, when you turn off the light, your room will go dark. Not dark dark. There will be a street lamp through the curtain, the glow from your phone, maybe a neighbor's window. You will barely notice. Now imagine doing that without any of it. No street lamp, no phone, no neighbor's window. The candle you've been rationing for 3 weeks just burned out. Outside your paper walls, there is nothing. Not dim, not shadowy. Nothing. The kind of dark where you cannot see your own hand in front of your face. And you genuinely know, that somewhere out there in that darkness, things are moving that you cannot see. This was every night in feudal Japan. For every person who wasn't rich enough to afford oil for a lamp, which was most people, for most of Japanese history. And the question nobody ever asks is, what did they actually do with that? Because the answer is not what you think. It is not peaceful. It is not restful. And it involves 3 worms living inside your body that were trying to get out while you slept. Here is what most people assume about nighttime in ancient Japan. People finished work, ate their rice, said goodnight, unrolled their futon, and went to sleep. Simple. Quiet. Peaceful. The natural rhythm of an agricultural society before electricity. The kind of life that wellness influencers on Instagram pretend they want. Wrong on almost every count. The futon, first of all. For most of the feudal period, most ordinary Japanese people did not sleep on a futon. The futon, as we know it, the padded cotton mattress, was a luxury item. Historians trace its spread among ordinary commoners to the late Edo period, roughly the 1700s and 1800s. Before that, commoners slept on loose straw mats on a dirt or wooden floor, pulling their day clothes over themselves as blankets. The concept of dedicated sleepwear didn't exist. You wore what you wore, and then you lay down in it. The word futon itself originally described a round cushion used by Buddhist priests for meditation. Not a bed, a meditation seat. It took centuries for it to become what we call a futon today. So the serene image of ancient Japanese bedtime, the pressed white cotton, the carefully rolled mattress, is mostly an Edo period upper-class invention that got borrowed backwards by the Western imagination. But here is the bigger myth. The assumption that people simply went to sleep. They didn't. Not always. Not simply. And on certain nights, not at all. Before you can understand what ancient Japanese people did at night, you need to understand what night actually meant. Today, darkness is an inconvenience. You flip a switch, and it stops. In feudal Japan, darkness was a boundary, a genuine one. The moment the sun went down, the world divided into 2 territories. The lit territory, inside, near the fire, near the lamp if you had one, and the dark territory, which began at the edge of that light and extended infinitely into whatever the night contained. And what it contained, everyone agreed, was not nothing. Feudal Japanese folk belief held that the night was populated. Not metaphorically, literally populated. Yokai, supernatural creatures, were understood to be more active after dark. Certain spirits could only move at night. The boundary between the human world and the spirit world was considered thinner after sunset, which meant that what happened to you at night carried a different kind of weight than what happened to you during the day. Sleep itself was not considered safe. The belief that the soul partially left the body during dreaming was widespread. The pillow had specific ritual significance. You did not sleep with your head pointing north, because north was the direction of death, the direction corpses were laid out. There is a Japanese word, kitamakura, that means literally north pillow, and it remains a taboo to this day in some households. There was even a yokai, the Makura Gaishi, whose specific purpose was to flip your pillow while you slept, repositioning your head so your soul could not find its way back into your body when you woke up. The anxiety around sleep was not abstract. It was architectural. It shaped where you put your head. And then there was the question of what happened to your body while your soul was wandering. This is where it gets interesting. Inside your body, right now, there are 3 worms. This was not a metaphor. This was documented belief, widespread across all levels of Japanese society from the 9th century through the Edo period. Practiced by nobles in the imperial court, Buddhist monks, and ordinary commoners in the market towns. The belief came from Taoism, arriving from China, and it held the following. 3 entities called the Sanshi, the 3 corpses, live inside every human body. They observe everything you do. Every bad deed, every private sin. Everything you would prefer your neighbors, your lord, or your god not to know about. And every 60 days, on a specific night determined by the Chinese calendar, a night called Koshin, the Sanshi try to leave your body while you sleep. They travel to the heavenly god Tente and report everything they have witnessed. Tente then shortens your lifespan accordingly. The worse your behavior, the more years you lose. The only way to stop this from happening was to not sleep on Koshin nights. So people didn't sleep. They gathered, family, neighbors, the whole community, and they stayed awake together until dawn. They drank, they talked, they played music, they told stories, they prayed. And every 60 days, across feudal Japan, villages held what was essentially a mandatory all-night party whose entire purpose was to prevent the worms inside their bodies from filing a report with heaven. A monk named Enin, visiting China in 838 AD, wrote home to Japan describing how the Chinese observed this same tradition. He noted, almost casually, that it was exactly like what everyone back home did. That sentence, written over 1,100 years ago, is one of the earliest documented references to this practice in Japan. By the Edo period, the Koshin night had evolved. It became a full festival. Communities erected stone monuments, Koshin-to, that still dot the rural Japanese landscape today. The symbol of the Koshin faith became 3 monkeys, not see, not hear, not speak. The same 3 monkeys you know from every gift shop in Japan. They did not start as a proverb about minding your own business. They started as a warning. Those monkeys represent the Sanshi, the things inside you that see everything, hear everything, and are waiting for you to fall asleep so they can go and speak about it. For those who did sleep, the night was not 8 hours of uninterrupted unconsciousness. It was structured, governed. The Edo period had a timekeeping system, hour bells called toki, that rang from temples and official bell towers to mark the passage of the night. The bell in Hongokucho in Edo was so central to daily life that there was a saying, "Kokucho makes Edo sleep and wake." The entire city organized itself around the sound of that bell. Commoners knew when to sleep, when to rise, when the city gates opened, and when the patrols began, all from the sequence of bell strikes in the dark. And here is something that will reframe how you think about your own 3 a.m. insomnia. Historians studying pre-industrial sleep patterns have found consistent evidence across many cultures that people did not sleep in one continuous block. They slept in 2 phases. First sleep, roughly 4 hours from dusk. Then a period of waking in the middle of the night, lasting 1 to 2 hours. Then second sleep until dawn. What did people do in that wakeful gap? Everything. Visited neighbors, discussed dreams, thought quietly in the dark. A European physician in the 1500s recommended that this was the best time for couples to conceive children, because the body was rested from first sleep but not yet urgent with the demands of the day. The window between first and second sleep was described, across multiple cultures, as a reflective state, calm, meditative, productive in a way that ordinary waking wasn't. The night, in other words, was not lost time. It was inhabited time. None of this changes the fact that the night was also genuinely frightening. Sleep paralysis, the experience of waking while the body remains temporarily unable to move, has a Japanese name that predates modern neuroscience by centuries. Kanashibari. It means bound in metal. The sensation of being pinned to the floor by something invisible, unable to move or speak while fully conscious. The first documented case in Japan dates to the 12th century. The Emperor Konoe, reigning from 1139 to 1155, suffered from what the records describe as a mysterious agony that came every night, a chest compression, an oppressive presence that no monk or healer could relieve. In 1153, a warrior named Minamoto no Yorimasa solved the problem by shooting an arrow into the darkness above the palace and killing what the records describe as a winged demon called Nue. The emperor's night terrors stopped. Modern science explains kanashibari as a brief mismatch between the sleeping brain and the waking body during REM sleep. The body's paralysis mechanism, which normally prevents you from acting out dreams, persists for a moment after consciousness returns. Between 40 and 50% of people will experience it at least once in their lifetimes, according to research published in the journal Sleep Medicine Reviews in 2002. It is not a disorder. It is a feature of human sleep that has terrified people for as long as people have been sleeping. But in feudal Japan, when it happened, it wasn't a neurological quirk. It was a demon sitting on your chest in the dark. Before we go any further, what do you think? Ancient Japanese people believed 3 worms lived inside their bodies, watching their every sin, waiting for them to fall asleep. Do you think that belief says something real about how humans have always feared being watched? Or is it just a creative way to keep people behaving? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you want more ancient Japan stories nobody else is telling, subscribe now. It's free, and new videos drop every week. So, what did ancient Japanese people actually do at night? They stayed awake when they had to. Every 60 days, the whole community gathered and drank and talked and told stories until dawn, keeping the worms from filing their report with heaven. They slept in phases, first sleep and second sleep, separated by a quiet, wakeful hour that wasn't insomnia. It was just how nights worked before electricity. They organized their darkness around the sound of bells, which told the city when to sleep and when to rise. They feared what moved in the dark, genuinely, architecturally feared it, and built rituals and symbols and stone monuments to manage that fear. And when they dreamed, they believed their souls were genuinely somewhere else, not metaphorically. Their consciousness had left the body and was moving through a world that ran parallel to the waking one. Sleep was not rest. It was a small death, repeated every night, from which most people returned, but from which some, eventually, did not. There is a word in Japanese for the kind of mysterious middle-of-the-night waking that isn't quite sleep and isn't quite consciousness. That strange, lucid state between first and second sleep. Modern Japanese doesn't have a standard term for it, but the Koshin tradition suggests that for centuries, people understood exactly what it was. They just called it the night the worms tried to leave. Here is the reframe. The next time you wake up at 3 a.m. and lie there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, unable to get back to sleep, and you think something must be wrong with you, your body is not broken. It is remembering something very old. The quiet hour between first and second sleep. The hour your ancestors used to lie in the dark and think about their lives before the bells told them it was time to sleep again. You are not insomniac. You are just ancient. So the next time you flip a light switch and your room floods with light and you don't think twice about it, pause for just a second. For most of Japanese history, that darkness you just erased was inhabited. It had structure. It had rules. It had 3 worms in it, waiting. And somewhere in the rural Japanese countryside, there are still stone monuments. The Koshin, carved with 3 monkeys and a fierce blue deity, standing in the dark by the side of roads where nobody walks at night anymore. They have been standing there for 400 years, watching.